Welcome, everyone. In today's explainer, we're going to look at a perspective that completely reframes the abortion debate. The idea is that abortion isn't the root problem itself, but actually a symptom, a sign of a much bigger issue that gets right to the core of a nation's health and its future.
So, let's just dive right in. The whole conversation usually revolves around the word choice, right? But this viewpoint asks a really challenging question. Is choice actually the real issue we should be focused on, or is it distracting us from something deeper?
So the way this argument gets started is by connecting the dots between our individual choices and these massive societal trends. It lays out a pretty specific and provocative chain of cause and effect that we're about to break down right now.
Okay, so here's the core idea. To really understand why abortion rates are what they are, you have to look deeper at the underlying economic and social systems. The argument is that certain types of societies historically lead to lower birth rates, and that this puts them on a path toward both economic and population collapse.
So what you're seeing here is basically a four-step roadmap to collapse, according to this argument. It starts when people get used to government benefits, what are called treats and gratuities. The idea is that this kicks off a chain reaction that slowly chips away at individual freedom, which then leads to falling birth rates, and eventually the whole system crumbles.
And you know, this isn't some brand new thought. I mean, look at this quote from the ancient historian Plutarch. It shows that people were thinking about this stuff way back then. This idea that making a population dependent on the state is the best way to take away their freedom.
All right, now let's get into how this viewpoint really takes apart some of the common arguments you always hear in the abortion debate. It looks at them through this very specific lens.
First up, the whole idea of viability. The pro-choice argument is that a fetus is totally dependent. But the counter-argument here really pushes back on that by pointing out, well, so is a newborn baby. A newborn can't survive on its own either. So it really makes you ask, okay, if dependency is the issue, where do you draw the line?
Okay, next up, we've got what's presented as a major contradiction. The argument puts the principle of bodily autonomy right up against socialist principles. You know, the idea that it's okay to take from one person's labor through taxes to support another person. From this perspective, you can't really hold both of those ideas at the same time.
And this line of thinking keeps going. The argument is, look, if you say that putting someone's body at risk against their will is wrong because pregnancy is a threat, then what about things like a military draft, or even taxes that pay for things that put others at risk? By that logic, shouldn't those be illegal too?
So all of this builds to the idea that the label pro-choice starts to look a little tricky, especially when public money gets involved. Because think about it, if you're forcing someone who's against abortion to pay for it with their taxes, where's their choice in all of this? The will of some is imposed on others.
Okay, so now let's zoom out and see how this argument plays out on a huge scale by comparing two continents, Europe and America.
And wow, this first number really sets the scene. In Europe, nearly 1 out of every 3 pregnancies ends in abortion. The argument here is that this isn't just a statistic. It's a number so high that it's literally reshaping the future of the entire continent.
So here's the supposed domino effect. The argument connects that low birth rate directly to open-door immigration policies, which are seen as a way to replace the population. But this, in turn, is said to be causing huge cultural shifts and even sparking predictions of chaos and division down the road.
This quote right here is incredibly powerful. It basically frames the whole situation as an existential crisis for the continent itself. It ties the fate of the unborn directly to the fate of the society, as if one can't survive without the other.
And this chart makes the difference pretty clear. You can see the rate per 1,000 births is way higher in Europe than it is in America. But there's a catch. It's also pointed out that America's lower number might not be because of a fundamentally different worldview, but simply due to more widespread contraception and pregnancy prevention. Okay, so all of this leads us to what this viewpoint calls the real bedrock of any society, the absolute foundation. And it's an institution that's seen as being totally under attack right now.
And this is where the whole argument really pivots. It puts the family front and center, saying it is the single most important building block we have. The logic is simple, right? If you want better people to create a better world, you have to start where people are actually made, in the family.
And from this perspective, a whole bunch of things in modern life are seen as putting the squeeze on the family unit. We're talking economic stress on parents, social programs changing the family structure, school systems creating distance between parents and kids, even media and peer pressure. It's like the family is getting hit from all sides.
And this quote really lays out what's at stake. It's a maxim of law, and it is blunt. When the foundation fails, all fails. So if the family is that foundation, and it starts to crumble, then everything that's been built on top of it is doomed to come down too.
So where does all of this leave us? What's the big takeaway? Well, this final part tries to flip the script on the whole idea of choice and the consequences that always come with it.
Here at the end, the very labels we use get challenged. The argument is made that the pro-life position is actually the true pro-choice position. And why? Because it respects the unborn child's choice to live, while also holding individuals accountable for the choices they already made that led to the pregnancy.
And so we're left with this final, really thought-provoking question that kind of ties it all together. If the family really is the foundation of society, what choices do we all need to make to rebuild it? It connects our personal decisions to our collective future. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments. And hey, if you found this breakdown interesting, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with someone. For a deeper dive, the source article is linked right in the description below. You can also find a link there to join the living network of Seekers for God's Kingdom. Thanks for watching.